Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi my loves, it's TROYCE and you're watching TROYCETV. So for today's video I really want to get on here and talk about black women singers who actually turned out to be white women. Now let me just start out by saying that the basis of this video is not going to be all about cultural appropriation and whitewashing and blackfishing and so much more. There's a lot more depth to this video and there's a lot of things that a lot of us actually need to have a serious conversation about. Now considering how controversial this conversation always is and always has been, I wanted to make it very clear specifically because I don't want people crawling into my comment sections and crawling out of the crevices like roaches on some, it's not about race, it's not about race, black people make everything about race, but if the title was in reverse, shut your mayo coochie ass up, bitch. Nobody's talking about that. Now that I got this respectful disclaimer out the way, we can get right into the video. Throughout pop culture and all of music history, entertainers of color have oftentimes been erased because Westernized society has done everything humanly possible to promote the European standards of beauty globally. The constant erasure and prejudice of black people and people of color in the media invoked many black and brown musicians and TV personalities and moguls to create their own black spaces due to the constant exclusion. Anytime an ethnic person was represented on television throughout time and history, a lot of times it was always based through a biased lens. And of course, like I said, black Americans and people of color started making their own platforms because they want to be represented in their own ways. They wanted to make sure that the depth was shown and things are getting a tad bit better thanks to many people who are driving the industry now and are trying their best. However, there still seems to be an issue in the music industry and it's very difficult for many people of color to exist in many genres unless they look a certain way. But of course, we'll discuss that a little bit later in this video. And it's also safe to mention Ariana Grande, who started off looking like this and now looks like this.
I'm like, bitch, that's my cookie, that's my juice, okay? Carry on.
Hi guys, it's me, Ariana. I just wanted to let you guys know about a Broadway in South Africa.
Now let me just start by saying that most of these women I will be discussing play a big role in pop culture and black culture. And most of them all had black cosigns, black songwriters, black producers, black labels, and what some considered as having soul or seasoning. Now, please keep in mind that white people with soul, or what we like to call seasoning, is literally nothing new. We could even talk about the famous and legendary Phoebe Snow. Phoebe Snow, for a lot of you who don't know, is the woman who sang the theme song for the first season of A Different World. It's a different world. Yes, she was white. And she actually looks like a light-skinned black woman if you look, in a certain angle, but she just so happened to be white. Now, many of you guys may be shocked by this, but a prime example is Paula Abdul. Now, of course, many of us know Paula Abdul as the judge from American Idol. We all know her from that song, Attract, and many of us know her for some of her acting credits. But before she was that judge on American Idol, she was the it girl of the 1980s, and due to that, she was a very big deal. She got her start as a cheerleader and a choreographer for her hometown basketball team, the Los Angeles Lakers. Paula Abdul was discovered by Michael Jackson, who saw her perform one time while she was choreographing an event at a Lakers basketball game, and eventually Michael Jackson loved what he saw and he personally requested her to choreograph a lot of what was going on for his tour. On top of that, that's how Paula Abdul also met Janet Jackson. Paula Abdul is highly credited and critically acclaimed for also doing the choreography for Janet Jackson's entire Control album. Now, Control was actually Janet Jackson's debut album, so this was a big deal for Paula Abdul back in the early 80s. And still to this day, Paula Abdul is seen as a legend. However, back in the 1980s, people thought Paula Abdul was black. Because to an extent, if you look a little bit closely, she does look a little bit like a light-skinned black woman, at least back in the day she did. Paula Abdul was also seen as marketable because of her deep olive skin tone and her ambiguity. Paula Abdul oftentimes put texturizers in her hair. She also created R&B music, and on top of that, Paula Abdul is one of the first pop artists ever to feature a rapper on a pop record when she first launched her solo career.
Paula's Middle Eastern and South American ancestry gave her an exotic look that helped generate a broad fan base.
She's got a strong ethnic look. Nobody knows really where to place her.
Is she black? Is she white? Is she Arab? Is she Jew? And the answer is yes.
The United Nations. It all works. She's like the National Geographic poster girl. It's all okay. It's all good.
Well, it's fun to date a woman like that because on any given night you can say, I want you to be Jewish tonight. And tonight I want to make love to a French-Canadian woman who can dance.
This is a brand new artist doing something different, very urban feeling, very urban feeling, very urban feeling.
Paula Abdul was seen as marketable because of her deep olive skin and her ambiguity. And on top of that, she was always hanging out with the Jackson family, considering she was their personal choreographer, and she was also very close with Janet. On top of that, Paula Abdul is one of the first pop artists ever to feature a rapper on a pop record when she first launched her solo career.
She's energetic.
I like the fact that she's so down to earth. Paula Abdul, her singing is really unique.
I like the way she dances.
So initially, Paula Abdul never really wanted to be a musician. In fact, she wasn't even really a musician to begin with. On top of that, Paula also got major co-signs from pioneers like L.A. Reid, Babyface, Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Arsenio Hall, whom she was actually dating at the time, Eddie Murphy, and Eddie Murphy even famously asked Paula Abdul to actually do the choreography for his Coming to America film that came out in the late 1980s.
Paula Abdul, you know, really hot snap and flash things.
So you guys can kind of see why a lot of people thought Paula Abdul was black. But L.A. Reid is also a big reason why Paula Abdul pandered to the black community. Now, her pandering to the black community happened out of complete nowhere, and of course, L.A. Reid wanted to capitalize off of it. L.A. Reid was one of the engineers on her first album. He also was a powerhouse in her career. But we'll talk about L.A. Reid a little bit later in this video. In the year 1989, Paula Abdul did an infamous interview with the LA Times, and she stated when she was asked, "What do people think she really is?" And she said, "Maybe black because of the music. I sing R&B music, dance music that's aimed at the black audience. They think I'm one of them."
The transition of being a music video artist to going on stage live is a big transition. I wanted to give the fans...
She even one time stated that black women will oftentimes pull her off to the side and tell her right after her performances, "I'm glad to see another sister making it."
But while it may be different musically, she's hoping it will continue the tradition of selling across racial lines.
Paula's mother is a Jewish French-Canadian. Her father is part Syrian and part Brazilian. Her exotic ethnic makeup has led almost every racial group to claim her as one of their own.
That was the media's excuse for calling Paula Abdul urban, when in reality, her father is merely just Syrian. In fact, her father was born in Aleppo, Syria, and he just so happened to move and migrate to Brazil when he was young. Her mother is a white Canadian Jewish woman. It is very clear that her publicist and her team knew exactly what they were doing, trying to say that she had urban and exotic energy in her because her father's Brazilian, when in reality, her father just moved to Brazil. Her father moving to Brazil didn't make him Brazilian. He's of Middle Eastern descent. But they tried to paint her as if she was exotic and had a little bit of black in her because everyone knows that Brazilians are known for being multi-ethnic, and also there's a lot of black people in Brazil because Brazil is known for having the largest black community in Latin America.
Her exotic ethnic makeup has led almost every racial group to claim her as one of their own.
People don't know what I am. They don't know. I'm this mutt, they think. But it's funny. I think it has worked to my advantage because I don't think I've alienated anyone. It's like a melting pot for me. I'm just Paula, you know, French, Canadian, Syrian, Brazilian girl. Mutt. Mutt.
And you guys also have to remember that this is the early 1980s. You guys have to keep in mind that back in the day, many black people still hold on to the whole one drop rule. Now I get it. Many of us will oftentimes say that if you don't have at least 2 black parents or you don't visibly look black, then you ain't black. And I understand that, and to an extent it is true because race is a social construct. You really are what you exist as. However, back in the day, you guys have to remember that people still held on to the one drop rule because back in the day, there was no being mixed. You had to either be black or white. But Paula Abdul is just a minuscule example, and there are so many artists of our time who people thought were black but turned out not to be. Now, of course, I had to get on here and address this. Most people always say that the 90s was a time to be alive. And that is a sentiment that pretty much holds weight because the 90s was the era that pretty much paved the way for the generation of artists we have today. Every time you guys turn on the radio or YouTube, it seems like everyone and their damn mom is sampling a 90s classic and reintroducing it to a newer generation. The 90s was a pivotal moment for rap music, as rap music was starting to get some shine and was finally starting to get respected in the entertainment industry. On top of that, to add the icing on the cake, rap music was being heavily integrated in R&B, pop, country, and much more. But of course, thanks to the late 90s, rap music and R&B heavily became integrated in R&B music, pop music, and many more genres. Black Americans who were in the music industry thought of a genius method to integrate rap music with every other genre, and it became a popular staple for many artists. Many artists who create reggaeton music, Latin music, pop music, and much more. So if it wasn't for a lot of Black Americans, a lot of your favorite artists, Latin artists, reggaeton artists, and much more wouldn't be making music that's integrated with R&B, rap, and of course we could thank Black American musicians for that, because people oftentimes don't want to give Black Americans any credit for anything. But what if I told you one of the biggest R&B classics to ever run across the airwaves was sung by a white woman who everyone thought was Black? I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with the 90s classic Swing My Way, sung by Kai Phillips and Susan Hedgepeth. Together, they were known as KP and Envy. KP being the rapper and Envy being the R&B vocalist. Though KP and Envy are oftentimes confused as a group, they actually weren't. KP and Envy were two completely separate artists. Kai Phillips was known by her stage name KP. KP was a member of the Capers.
But I'm relaxed now, off the racks now, and selling at your store. Don't see me in the streets in the finest clothes. Real ones stay fresh from East Coast to West.
The 90s rap group that literally no one remembers, and the three pretty much acted as a southern trio. The group consisted of 3 members, and the group was signed to Dslr Entertainment and was managed by Rashida's husband, Kirk Frost. However, one of the group members, KP, was introduced to Susan Hedgepeth. Now, KP and Susan Hedgepeth were actually very close to Jermaine Dupri and many other label executives in Atlanta. Susan and KP were pretty much introduced to one another because somebody had a really good idea. Susan Hedgepeth, the woman who sung the hook for Swing My Way, was signed as a solo artist to East West Records back in the mid-90s. Suzanne then started going by the stage name Envy instead of her birth given name, Suzanne. Envy was born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina, but moved to Atlanta to pursue her passion for the music industry. As we all know, Atlanta is pretty much the capital for Black musicians and R&B artists and many artists who are trying to make it big in the entertainment industry but don't want to go all the way to Los Angeles or New York. They somehow managed to pitch their iconic Swing My Way record, and the single was an overnight success in the year 1998. Swing My Way became the song of the summer at many nightclubs, family gatherings, school dances, and it even became an infamous song at Freaknik in Atlanta. Shawty Swing My Way peaked at number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100, number 14 on the UK singles chart, number 14 on the New Zealand singles chart, and number 54 on the Dutch singles top 100. This was a very big deal because not many R&B girls who just released their debut single were really doing these kind of numbers. Which is awkward because, again, they weren't even a group, but yet they were marketed as KP and Envy. KP and Envy were of course encouraged to do a music video, and they obliged because the public was going crazy over their single, Swing My Way. The public was shocked at first to find out that she appeared to be a white woman because, again, she had a little bit of seasoning on her, and then she was also using euphemisms, ebonics, and so much more because, let's be honest here, how many white folks do y'all know go around saying swing my way? And let's be honest, how many white people do we really know go around saying swerve on and shoddy? Let's be honest here, she was most definitely marketed to be pandered towards the Black community. And then on top of that, she also didn't really have any rhythm.
My pussy be burning and itching, burning and itching. Itching and burning, it be burning and itching, burning and itching. Itching and burning, it be stanky and fishy, stanky and fishy. Fishy and stanky, fishy and stanky, it be stanky and fishy, stanky and fishy. Fishy, stanky, fishy and stanky. I got STDs. They make my coochie itch.
But we're not gonna go that deep. And this was the 90s. Back then, people didn't care. As long as it was good music, people didn't really care. And back then, social media wasn't a big deal. Social media wasn't really a big deal for people who grew up in the 90s. So back then, people just let things slide and just dust it off. KP and Envy then performed on Soul Train. And of course, the audience didn't even really seem to care that Envy was obviously a white woman. Many people anticipated for more music from the duo, but sadly, people again didn't realize they were never a group. Swing My Way was something that just happened out of nowhere. It was something that was completely thrown against the wall and then something just automatically sticked. Envy's label pitched an idea and it just so happened to stick. KP was more focused on pursuing her girl group, but nothing really came out of that. KP was really settled on trying to make her rap group Capers really flourish because she was very close to her group mates. But unfortunately, she was really the only one who really saw mainstream popularity and success. So KP and Envy didn't really care to do more music together because, again, they didn't want to be known or marketed as a group. Envy had her own ideas and she had her own endeavors, and so did KP. But unfortunately, things didn't really work out for either of them. They pretty much were just a one-hit wonder. Music was basically going faster and faster and faster than the music industry could ever predict and had hoped, and the Y2K era was steadily approaching. Once the early 2000s came around, Envy made an appearance on Lil Zane's album, The Big Zane Theory. Then in 2005, after years of not doing a song together, Envy and KP finally came to terms and they finally did a record together. And KP and Envy decided to collaborate and they did a song on Jermaine Dupri's album, Young, Fly, and Flashy. And the duo released a single titled Put Your Hands Up. And of course, that also failed miserably because the song was doo-doo mixed with shit. Sadly, as time went on, Envy of course left her label East West Records and she decided to pretty much pursue everything on her own because she felt like she wasn't really getting anything out of her label. And due to the fact that she was so tired of being boxed in as the girl from Swing My Way or the white woman from Swing My Way, she decided to endure rebranding in the year 2009 and announced that she would be changing her name to Sulaine. The same year, Envy independently released her new project titled Tell Me Why. She couldn't get the attention of the public and people simply just didn't care anymore. She simply was just a phase of the 90s. Envy was never able to revive that same amount of success that she got in the 90s. And it's sad because many artists had this same story. Envy lived a relatively private life, so nobody really knows what happened to her after she decided to pretty much leave the music industry after her rebranding didn't really work out. She did make a comeback in 2012 when she decided to rejoin and give the industry another chance. And she decided to pretty much make an appearance on the 2012 show Sunday's Best on Season 4, Episode 5. She was unfortunately eliminated after a couple of rounds. As of now, Envy has lived a relatively private life and has visibly no interviews on the internet at all. I mean, there are some clips on YouTube of her singing Swing My Way with KP all throughout the 2010s, and there are some clips of her performing the record, there are some photos of her with KP, but it seems like she lives a relatively quiet and private life and no one really knows much about her, and I think she likes it that way. But luckily for her, her voice still lives on because as we all know, she was famously sampled by Bryson Tiller for his hit song, Exchange. And J. Cole also famously sampled her voice as well for his album For Your Eyes Only for his single Deja Vu.
Finger in the sky if you want it, nigga. Hey, put 2 fingers in the sky if you want it.
But sadly, she doesn't have a writing credit or a production credit for either one of these projects, so no one really knows if she's even getting paid for it, considering the 90s was the era where a lot of people got their publishing stolen. But then controversy struck. A couple months ago, a TikToker posted a TikTok detailing a lot of songs that we thought were sung by black people, but were really sung by white people. This TikTok went viral, garnering over 11 million views. And on top of that, it blew Twitter up, and a lot of people on Twitter were shocked to find out that Envy was white.
KP and Envy, yes. Well, let me tell you something. The internet is losing it because word on the street is that the lead singer, y'all, Envy, named Susan Hatch, but she might be a white woman.
If you're over 34 years old, you know she was white and you saw the video back in the day. It's the newer generation of kids that didn't know that are finally catching on to this amazing song who are watching this video on YouTube and saying, oh, damn, she's white.
Of course, a lot of the older generation kind of laughed at this entire notion because many people who grew up in the 90s knew she was white. Or if they were shocked, they just didn't give a fuck because back then, the 90s were different. Many people claim that Envy's mixed with Creole or some shit like that or whatever that even means. And many people say that she's not white. No one's really sure what her race is because again, she's never even came out to address this. Which to me leads to believe that she doesn't even care because again, she's not on social media. She doesn't even see these things. On top of that, I will say this. I did do some more research to try to find out if she really is white, just to fact check and verify. And I did find out that she actually had an acne portal on talentexplore.com. Envy never shut down the conspiracy theories, but this is the only digital footprint that she has on the internet. This is her Explore Talent page on Google that I found, and this was the only trace of information I was able to find about her, where she put a little bit about her information, her life, what she had going on, and then also if you look closely right here, she does put her ethnicity as Caucasian, which translates to white. So again, this is her only digital footprint that I was able to find. I'm sure this isn't a fake profile because she's not relevant enough for anyone to make a fake profile, but she literally put herself as Caucasian, or I don't know, maybe her agent did that, but as far as I know, she's a white woman.
Did you find a lot of challenges being a white woman in black music?
No, none at all. And I've always been totally accepted by black radio and black people, and I've never even really felt any of that.
Now, if I were to ask y'all right now, who do y'all think the Queen of Soul is? Most of you guys would probably say Mary J. Blige, because everyone knows that Mary J. Blige can't just sing, but she can sing. But what if I told you that it was another Queen of Soul that many people oftentimes give credit to? And it's not just Aretha Franklin or Patti LaBelle, it's somebody else. I wanted to get on here and discuss Teena Marie. People oftentimes forget the impact of the beautiful late Teena Marie, because people oftentimes look at the Queen of Soul as Gladys Knight, Aretha Franklin, Mary J. Blige, and even Patti LaBelle. Now, I'm sure most of y'all are probably not familiar with the late great Teena Marie, because sadly, many people don't even talk about her anymore. Teena Marie is infamously known for being the Ivory Queen of Soul. Teena Marie was born Mary Christine Brocker in Los Angeles, California. Teena's mother was an interior designer and her father was a construction worker. Teena's family raised her in Venice, California. Now, many of y'all know Venice, California as being very artsy and touristy and being known as a place with one of the prettiest beaches in California. But sadly, Venice at the time was actually considered a developing area, i.e. the ghetto. And at the time, before Venice was the touristy safe haven that we all know it as, Venice was known as the ghetto by the beach. Venice was one of the few places in LA where many black southerners who fled red states when they made their move up north and they made their move to the west coast. Her parents instantly put her in musical theater, and by the time it hit 1964, Teena Marie made her debut acting appearance in a hit sitcom called The Beverly Hillbillies, based in Los Angeles, California. She oftentimes performed at venues, events, bars, and many more places in general to build her fan base. Teena Marie knew deep down inside that she was built for this. And when she was a teenager, she and a few classmates actually started a whole rock band called the Trouvere. Eventually, Teena Marie got a job at a local taco shop to pretty much support herself in 1975. Teena eventually found herself in another band called The Entourage, and the group basically created funk and R&B music. But that was short-lived due to creative differences. Teena had hopes of quitting her job, and she had hopes of one day making it big in the entertainment industry. And she worked endless hours perfecting her craft, and she was fortunate enough to have a lot of support by her community because she was known in her community already for being a singer. Now, this may be a shock to y'all, but growing up, a lot of people didn't think Teena was white. All Teena did was pretty much hang around a lot of black people. She smoked weed with the black kids after school, got in trouble with all the black kids after school, and one of her childhood friends actually didn't even know that she was white until her mom came to school one day to pick her up.
She walked like me, she talked like me, she sang like me.
Did you know that records make you colored? They made Al Green and James Brown. When I first met her, I didn't realize that she was white until a couple of years later, her mother picked us up from school. And there was this white lady, and I said, I didn't know your mother was white. It had never dawned on me that she was white.
Teena Marie did her hair differently like all the black girls, and she even had a distinct soulful and soprano voice and had her whole friend group thinking that she was black because a lot of people didn't think a white girl could really sound like that. So back in the day, if anyone even thought you were black or at least mixed with black, everyone in the black community instantly embraced you and figured you were just one of them. Unfortunately, her parents did not take keenly on her love for the black community, and her parents ostracized her when she brought home a black man one time at the age of 19 years old. In other words, Teena's parents were racist as fuck. Teena Marie stated, at the time, we were 19 and 20, and my family at that particular time was not at all with the black and white thing. We were very much in love. My father didn't even shake his hand. My father had a heart attack. Some people in my family even said that I killed my father on the inside, and it sent me into a really bad mental thing. Teena Marie infamously wrote a song called Don't Turn Your Back on Me in 1976, where she dedicated to her father who pretty much ostracized her for only dating black men. In 1976, at only the age of 20 years old, Teena auditioned for multiple record labels and was rejected by almost every single record label that she auditioned for. Teena managed to get a record meeting with Motown Records and Hal Davis, who at the time was a very famous record executive who worked with Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, and many more people during the time of Motown Records' peak. Now, as we all know, Motown Records was one of the hottest record labels back in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s because they discovered some of the best, most iconic, most memorable artists in the entire black industry. Motown was pretty much just the it label if you wanted to make soul and thrive in R&B. Teena Marie managed to get a meeting with the very legendary Berry Gordy, who's responsible for discovering acts like Diana Ross, Smokey Robinson, The Temptations, The Supremes, and most notably, Jackson 5. Berry Gordy decided to sign Teena Marie as a solo act after he was very impressed with her solo audition, but there was only one catch. Teena Marie didn't really have much creative control because her label wasn't sure how the public would react to a white girl making funk and R&B music on a black-owned label. But Teena kept submitting singles after singles after singles after singles to Motown Records, but they were always being dubbed because her label wasn't really sure what to do with her. And they also refused to waste a dime investing into her until she could pretty much prove herself. It wasn't until Motown suggested Rick James, who was also signed to the label at the time, to team up with Teena Marie and aid her with her debut album. Rick James agreed because he saw a lot of potential in Teena, and he also kind of had a crush on her.
I was in one of the piano rooms on the 17th floor, and one of these particular days, Rick put his head in the door and he started listening to me. I thought he was really funny looking, and he only had, his hair was half braided, and he had on this Jimi Hendrix hat and high platform shoes with all this turquoise jewelry that later turned into diamonds. But in the early days it was turquoise. And we just started talking.
He happened to come in the office one day. We were talking about something. When he was about to exit the office, he turned and he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to do something with that little girl." I said, "What little girl?" You know, by then I'm, doing something else. He said, "The little white girl."
We went into the studio, and I think I really knew when he started sending me some music. It was music that he wrote, but it had elements of me in it.
With James writing and producing many of the songs, Teena Marie recorded her debut album for Motown in 1979, 3 years after she signed with the label. It was titled Wild and Peaceful, and Teena's face was notably absent from the cover.
Motown Records was very strategic with Teena. They saw a lot in her, but they felt like if the public knew she was white, then no one would take her seriously as an R&B and funk artist. So they refused to let her do any interviews, and they refused to put her picture onto the album and encouraged her to keep her race a secret. Teena Marie's debut album, Wild and Peaceful, had a moderate amount of success, and it debuted at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 200 for best-selling albums in the US. And believe it or not, it was all because of her hit single, Deja Vu. She became mostly known for her even bigger hit song with Rick James titled I'm a Sucker for Your Love. Considering how much of a big hit the song Sucker for Your Love was, Teena's album did so well to the point where Motown Records then propositioned Teena and asked Teena to make her first ever debut appearance on television, and she appeared on Soul Train the same year. And this was a big deal because this was her first ever face reveal, and of course, people were shocked to see that she was white, and no one cared.
3 years after she signed with the label, it was titled Wild and Peaceful, and Teena's face was notably absent from the cover.
Mr. Gordy settled on a beautiful seascape. He decided that it would be a great idea for people to just hear the music on its own merit before they judged what the person looked like.
People associated a book with its cover.
And of course, Teena Marie was invited back to promote her record and perform on Soul Train numerous times because she was pretty much hot at the moment. Everyone knew who she was, especially with her ties to Rick James. Teena Marie was pretty much a household name and known nationwide. Teena Marie's Must Be Magic album, which is her biggest album to date, pretty much spawned numerous hits on the album. The singles we all know from that album is Square Biz, which is a huge song that's been played on so many black shows, sitcoms, films, and was even infamously played on Girlfriends. Must Be Magic, which is her 4th studio album, overall solidified her spot in pop culture, and Teena Marie made it very clear that soul has no color.
I was telling the folks I was standing next to there, never get discouraged because here's an example of how to hang in there. How many years did you drag around trying to get people to listen to your music?
For 2 years.
Nobody said anything good?
Every door was knocked on in Los Angeles.
How long did you hang out at Motown before they let you start?
About almost 3.5 years.
And here you are after a lot of hits over at CBS Records. Everything you do has a different feel. How do you explain that?
Well, I grew up around a lot of different kinds of music. I'm from Venice.
Yeah. Artistic area.
Yes, and there's Chicanos, blacks, whites. It's kind of like a melting pot for Los Angeles. Yeah. So I absorbed a lot of salsa and rhythm and blues and Led Zeppelin. I never missed a Led Zeppelin concert.
Sadly, as time went on, Motown started losing its momentum after several of its best artists began to break away from the label because of shady business tactics. On Christmas Day in 1991, Tina Marie had her daughter Aaliyah Rose with her boyfriend at the time, Peter Butcher. Tina Marie was encouraged to be private even more because the media decided to violate her privacy by claiming that Rick James was the father of her child, all because she was closed off to the media and didn't reveal her personal life. And she pretty much lived a very quiet, chill, and reserved life, touring around the world. Sadly, Tina Marie lost most of her momentum towards the mid-80s. Music was starting to change heavily, and unfortunately, she couldn't really keep up with the times. On top of that, she had a very nasty fallout with Motown Records because she infamously left Motown Records in 1983 after she had a very nasty lawsuit with them, and she actually won. They were trying to harbor her royalties, and they were trying to keep her under contract because so many people like Michael Jackson, Diana Ross, and many more were leaving the label because Motown was failing miserably because music was changing. Tina Marie, however, did later rekindle her friendship with Rick James in 2004. And in 2004, the two famously were invited to the BET Awards, and they sung their big hit, Fire and Desire, at the BET Awards.
Use and abuse it, baby. And then I laid eyes on you.
Sadly, Rick James ended up dying a few months later due to a heart attack, and that negatively affected Tina Marie's mental health, and she went into a deep, dark depression to the point where she developed an addiction to the drug Vicodin.
We lost Rick James, who was very close to me, obviously, and so that was difficult for me. And I had some accidents. I had a huge picture fall off a hotel room wall and hit me in the head while I was sleeping, which caused me to start having seizures. And I had a Sub-Zero refrigerator fall on me. So I had a lot of stuff going on with me. And I was doing a lot of praying. And I also had an addiction with Vicodin, with painkillers after Rick passed. So I went cold turkey off of those. And so I was, really kind of loop-de-loop for a while.
Tina was already taking Vicodin to numb herself because Tina Marie had already suffered a severe seizure problem. She considered Rick James to be a very close friend. She considered him to be brilliant, and she considered him to be the closest person to her that actually inspired her. And in spite of their sexual and very close relationship, she still considered Rick James as a very big part of her. And she was very disappointed when she found out he passed away months after they actually rekindled their friendship. Tina later passed away on December 26th of 2010, literally a day after her daughter's 19th birthday.
Expect to learn more today about the death of R&B singer Tina Marie. The woman who was known as the Ivory Queen of Soul died Christmas night in her sleep. She was known for her hits Lover Girl, Square Biz, and Fire and Desire, which was a duet with Rick James. Marie was 54 years old.
And she passed away due to an apparent natural cause that many people still to this day aren't sure about. Tina Marie was found dead in her sleep, and most people suspect that she might have passed away due to excessive drug intake, but she had already been clean for a few years, and most people also assume that her constant seizures might have played a role in her ultimately dying out of nowhere. Days after her death, a memorial was held in her hometown, Venice, Los Angeles, California, and many of her friends wanted to honor her legacy, her daughter, and pretty much everything that she left behind as she was passing on.
She sang like an angel, and she was one of the few artists that I know that sound just like the record, that you can actually sing along with the record. And she's been to my house. I've traveled around the world to see her as a fan, and her daughter. We're extended family, and when I heard over the holidays, I was completely tore up.
She had a wonderful spirit, and I felt that from the moment I met her till the last time I saw her.
Tina was just an amazing spirit, just a humble and true and honest and good person, and we lost a good one.
She was always good to everybody that she met, every woman that she met. It didn't matter race, creed, color, sexual orientation. She was always a good person. She was a trailblazer.
As of now, Tina Marie's daughter, Aaliyah Rose, is still consistent on social media. She oftentimes will post pictures of her and her mother, post memories of her and her mother, and her daughter's also dabbling in the music industry and making pop music and alternative music. And Tina Marie showed us that you can still exist as a black artist, even though you're white. She showed the world that you could still have a black audience, respect your black audience, and still make music that's still true to that black audience. One of Tina Marie's most famous but yet most controversial quotes is, "I'm a black artist with white skin." And she basically implied this. She followed up that infamous quote with also stating, "It just so happened that the African American community absolutely loved me and embraced me." That's a blessing. I don't think that there's ever been anyone in the last 30 years that has been looked at and accepted like that.
Did you find a lot of challenges being a white woman in black music?
No, none at all. And I've always been totally accepted by black radio and black people, and I've never even really felt any of that.
I'm like, whatever, like, I'm a mutt, we all are. We all came from the same place, God, and that's how I explain it. We're all pink on the inside, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. If you respect me, I respect you.
To ask you a question?
Yes.
Where the fuck did your accent go?
Pink was born Alicia Beth Moore on September 8th, 1979 in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Pink had a relatively awkward childhood. Her parents were always constantly fighting, and she also grew up being a problem child. She used to shoplift, do drugs, and also skip school very frequently. But Pink would later develop a passion and love for R&B music, and music ended up being her scapegoat for avoiding her problematic life and her childhood. Pink initially got her start in an R&B group. But before this R&B group, she was actually in another group, but she claims that the group was an all-black group. But of course, she was kicked out allegedly for being the only white girl. Pink also made it very clear that she ended up finding home with another girl group, and she ended up joining another girl group called Choice. From there, some way, somehow, their demo got in the hands of L.A. Reid.
Eventually, it was L.A. Reid, founder of LaFace Records, who heard something special in the group and their lead singer.
It's pretty rare to find a young 16-year-old white girl singing with so much soul. She's not even old enough to be soulful yet.
Just to be loving you.
And the group, of course, relocated to Atlanta to work on an album that would unfortunately never see the light of day. It got to the point where L.A. Reid was so impressed that he automatically got a light bulb. And he thought to basically pull Pink off to the side. And L.A. Reid pulled Pink to the side and told her that she really should consider going solo. L.A. Reid was having different ideas, and he figured that he didn't really want to invest into a girl group anymore. He figured that since a lot of people around him didn't really believe in them, he figured since he didn't really see the vision anymore, he felt like he wanted Pink to pursue a career as a solo artist.
So he gave her an ultimatum. Go solo or go home.
You've got to be kidding me. Like, these are my sisters.
The loyalty was the issue. They left Philadelphia together, they came to LaFace together, and they never put out an album, not even a single, forcing her to turn her back on her friends.
Groups were pretty much a big deal, but groups started dying down and breaking up left and right as they started going into the late 90s. And considering this was the year 1998, L.A. Reid figured that Pink would pretty much stand alone as a solo artist, and he figured Pink had what it took to be a solo artist. 2 years later, during the Y2K era, Pink released her debut album in the year 2000 titled Can't Take Me Home. L.A. Reid knew exactly what he was doing with Pink, and he really wanted her to be marketed towards the black community, considering he knew that she had a voice that a lot of the black community would love.
She now has short pink hair, and she had a pink rabbit's foot.
And L.A. Reid thought it'd be a good idea to market her to the black community, considering R&B is mostly consumed by black people. Throughout the inception of her first album, L.A. Reid instantaneously put her in a studio with multiple artists, multiple songwriters, and multiple musicians. The album was produced by Kevin Shakespeare Briggs, and the album also included writers like Babyface and Candy Burris, who we all know from the group Escape, and whom we all know for writing the song No Scrubs by TLC. Pink's debut album in the year 2000 had 3 chart-topping hits back-to-back.
She did things that she didn't want to do. She sang songs that she really didn't want to sing.
You're frightened to rock the boat. You don't want to lose this fantastic thing you have going for yourself. The first record was Discovery.
Musically, I didn't think she was satisfied, but we did the best that we can do under the circumstances, and we ended up getting what we really needed, which was a couple of great songs that became hit singles.
Playing with the white R&B singer.
I always called her a white black girl. I always called her a white black girl.
And of course, Pink was pretty much at the height of her career, and she pretty much was catapulted to being a nobody to being on top. In March of 2000, Vibe reported that Pink grew up in a racially diverse neighborhood in North Philadelphia, where she gained a lot of inspiration from artists like Mary J. Blige. Now, Please tell me, how the fuck is a suburb an hour away from Philadelphia considered North Philadelphia? Pink grew up in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, not North Philadelphia. North Philadelphia is considered the hood. And I'm trying to figure out that why when her debut album came out, Vibe magazine, a black-owned magazine, felt the need to make her seem like she was a hood girl. The following year, in the year 2000, Billboard then wrote an article about Pink, and they put, and I quote, "Pink is actually more like Gwen Stefani, dipped in a whole lot of soul." On top of that, in the year 2000, Vibe magazine referred to Pink as a soulful vanilla child. Pink later did an interview in the year 2000, and she finally addressed all the controversy surrounding her race because, again, people were very confused about it. People weren't sure if she was just biracial, a light-skinned black woman, some type of Spanish, or if she was mixed with some type of Creole.
My thing is, I write my music. I'm a hands-on person. I make what this is. You know what I mean? Nobody came to me and said, okay, we're going to call you Pink. Here, throw on some pink hair, get some pink shirts, and here you go, just be you. No, this is me. People think, I mean, there's a poll going on, like a bet going on at my friend's work. They think my mom lied to me about who my dad is. Like, they totally think I'm mixed. I'm like, whatever. Like, I'm a mutt. We all are. We all came from the same place, God. And that's how I explain it. We're all pink on the inside. Whatever you want to call it. I don't care. If you respect me, I respect you. And if you're ignorant, then I don't have anything to do with you. They've heard the song on the radio first, and they're like, she's not white. She's not white. But people need to realize you don't have to be anything to be anything. You just, it comes from your experiences. It comes from where you've been, what you've been taught, and what you've decided to go with and learn.
And the fact that she answered that way really shows me that she doesn't think that her race matters, which it doesn't. But it does matter when you're pandering to the black community and there's articles written about you being called the vanilla soul child. And it's very clear that Pink's team pretty much utilized the world's white fetishism with black culture. But sadly, we would later find out that Pink wasn't even making music that was true to herself. She never fully elaborated, but she instead put it in the music. Pink actually decided to go a completely different route when she decided to release her second studio album titled Misunderstood. And the album had no R&B or rap elements on it at all. Pink did an entire 180, and she went from a light-skinned black woman on her first album to her second album looking like a white girl.
My concern was always that you're abandoning your fan base.
The first album did well. Why do you want to change things? Everything's going the way it should.
Pink's first album went double platinum, selling over 2 million copies worldwide. And her second album sold over 10 million copies worldwide. So evidently, black culture really served Pink no purpose anymore. And even though Pink mostly got more love than she got hate, Pink deep down inside never really felt right about what she was doing, and she never really felt accepted by the black community anyways. Pink has always been ostracized because of the way she looks and the way she acts, so it was really no shock to her. When Pink was asked about the segregation in music, Pink infamously stated in a Rolling Stone interview in 2002 stating, "Yeah, the segregation is sickening. I've been at the homes of friends who are black and been kicked out of their homes by their grandmothers. I've walked into black radio stations and know, just from the vibe in the room, that they don't want me there. It's something that's always affected me, and I hate it. I hate the lines that are drawn between people. I hate what society has taught us. I hate history. I didn't do it, but I can do my little part to change things." Many people oftentimes like to refer to Pink as urban, when in reality it's just R&B music and black culture. And I really don't like that word urban, or the fact that people try to bunch it in with Ariana Grande, Pink, and many other artists, because I find it a little bit odd. Just say it's black culture, when in reality, urban simply just means we'll give credit to ourselves for creating that word, but we're not going to give it to black folks, in my personal opinion. Just so they can say it's black, but not really black because we named it something else. Honestly, the point of this entire video is this. This is why a lot of black people always side-eye anyone that tries to come into the industry and profit off of the black aesthetic. Ariana Grande, Eminem, Jack Harlow, you name it. Every single person that came into the industry making rap music and they just happen not to be black, a lot of people oftentimes side-eye them because a lot of times they go around saying the N-word or go around blasting rap music and rapping on beat and everything, and then eventually they put a pop artist on their song, they become pop, and they slowly are able to transition into multiple genres. You know, Post Malone's a perfect example. Post Malone was instantly able to be credited as a rap artist and a pop artist. Not just a rapper, but a pop artist. And then you got Ariana Grande, who started off with "I love the way," to give me the juice. Go on, give me the whatever the fuck she said, whatever the fuck she's talking about. I don't know. Ariana Grande could throw on a fucking yaki ponytail, start rapping, have predominantly black musicians and producers and writers help co-write her products, and instantaneously, Ariana Grande can exist in rap, R&B, and pop. And granted, it's definitely not their fault. It's not their fault at all. Rap, sing, and do whatever the hell you want if you're inspired. But bitch, give credit to where it's due. We could even talk about Iggy Azalea. Iggy Azalea is a perfect example. She was made up of predominantly black engineers from Atlanta, black southern rappers who gave her a cosign, and instantaneously she became one of the most successful rappers of 2014. And it's really odd because this woman is from Australia.
You trip and get a call for the weekend, get a room at the days and let the days blur together. Bet that line, wash away quick. Birds of a feather, rockin' birds in the winter. She gon' fly off the summer, leave your ass for the next thing.
How the hell she end up sounding like this? See, it's just little things like this that just show you that having lighter skin can help you maneuver. And what do all these people I talked about have in common? Phoebe Snow, Pink, Envy. Hell, Paula Abdul, what does that do? That sets a lot of black people back, and it sets black women back because, again, they can't really exist in an industry where they're constantly being compared to people who aren't even black, but look black. So a lot of times, black women can still thrive and still find their space. They just have to work twice as hard. And hell, we can sit up here and complain all we want about how life is so unfair and how we're such victims. I don't believe in that shit. I don't believe in the victim mentality. At the end of the day, I believe in solutions. So what can we really do about it? Can we sit around and complain all day about how we can't get what the white man has and how we, will never get an equal playing field? Or do we figure out solutions to get what the hell we want? Life isn't easy, and there's privilege in everything. There's privilege in, for example, having both parents in your household. There's privilege in having more money than somebody. There's privilege in being financially stable. There's privilege in waking up in the morning and being able to walk out of bed. There's privilege in every little thing. But guess what? With every disadvantage, you can find advantages with the utilities and the resources that you have now. So utilize everything you have. You want to be a famous musician? Try your best to utilize social media. You want to be a popular dancer? Use TikTok and promote your dancing. You want to be a business owner? Go read those self-help books that you can now buy online. You want to be a popular business mogul? You want to start your own business? You want to have a great job? You want to get into college and you feel like you can't because of how you grew up because your English isn't very good? Utilize what you have now and utilize what's in front of you to get what you want. Fun fact, I actually grew up poor, so I couldn't afford a camera when I first started my YouTube channel damn near 10 years ago. In fact, my first phone was a cheap-ass ice cream sandwich-shaped Android, and guess what? My videos were terrible, but I still made videos because my dream was to be a popular entertainer, and I managed to do so with my shitty-ass phone. At the end of the day, it's all about what you have. It's not about what you have, it's all about what you do with it. There's a lot of people who had way more money than me, people I grew up with who could actually afford cameras, who were never really able to go anywhere on social media because they themselves didn't have it in them to make an effort to try. But I was willing to try and use what I had. At the end of the day, you could literally simply start a restaurant business literally out of your garage. You can start so many types of businesses, so many ventures, and pretty much do whatever the hell you want if you just make an effort to use what you have. It's all about what you have, and most of us have 24 hours in a day. Use it wisely. At the end of the day, we just live in a world where you have to use what you got to get what you want. It sucks that you look like this. It sucks that I probably look like this. It sucks that you sound like that. It sucks that you act like that. But what are you going to do about it? But I know this video in general is going to trigger a lot of people. I know there's going to be a lot of crazy shit going on in my comment sections, but I'm here for it, bitch. But in general, leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought about this video. And yeah, that's that. Enjoy the music. Choice out this bitch. She's got a girl and she's on fire. With the world like a sea. Oh, she's got and it has oh, this girl is on fire. This girl is on fire. She's walking on fire. This girl is on fire. Oh.